Give me 1 second. Let me just get that view right. Close view. Awesome. Okay. Hello, hello, STS Enterprise family. My name is Mia Simone, and I will be hosting today. So you want to be in supply chain management and logistics. And today we have some amazing, amazing speakers with us. And I am so excited about this panel because this is a world, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know very much about outside of warehouse work. So I'm very excited to explore like what does it look like for college students who are looking to get this degree, and what is it beyond picking and pulling at FedEx. So first off, we're going to do some introductions because we do have some heavy hitters, and I want to make sure we give them the respect and the care that they deserve. So first off, we're going to be speaking about Mr. Jonathan Moffett. He's a packing manager and he's a native Memphian and graduate of the University of Memphis with a bachelor's degree in economics received in the fall of 2015. During his tenure at the University of Memphis, he served in a plethora of leadership and involvement organizations. Notable organizations include the Dr. Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award, Mr. U of M finalist, and the Carson Circle, the highest award attainable for undergraduate students. All right. Upon graduation, Moffett joined corporate America via supply chain, where he held 5 positions over the past 10 years. His current role in supply chain packing manager for Silvamo?
Silvamo.
Oh,
Yep.
awesome. Corporation, where he drives 75 million. Let's put the emphasis on that. He drives 75 million in packaging initiatives, facilitate cross-functional teams, and applies deliberate improvement to create positive customer experience. Jonathan loves to give back to the community, and in return of everything that has been given to him. Hobbies include exercising, traveling, and playing poker and anything spontaneous. So happy to have you, Jonathan.
Nice to be here. Looking forward to the conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And next we have the Miss Gabrielle Mitchell Smith, who's also a heavy hitter. She was born and raised in Memphis and graduated from Germantown High School in the year of 2000 and went to college at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. There she earned her bachelor's degree in business administration and continued on to complete her MBA. Um, After moving back home from Memphis, she started her career at International Paper, and in 2014 earned a second master's degree from Union University in Christian Studies with a certification in ministry leadership. She has worked for 19 years in International Paper with various roles in transportation, procurement, quality, and process improvement spaces of supply chain management, along with a brief stint in human resources. She is um she is the wife to Co Kobe
Kasia.
sorry, Casbia Smith, and raises two beautiful young ladies, Chanicity and Karma. Is that how it's pronounced?
Honesty and karma. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that correction. And so nice to have you. Thank you, Gabrielle, for being on this panel.
Thank you. Really excited to be here.
Absolutely. And last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Levon Valentine. Now, Mr. Valentine is a senior project manager at Amazon. He has his bachelor's of science in business and with a concentration of financial planning. He went to VCU, and his hobbies include he loves travel and in the immersion of different cultures. His personal goal is to travel to all 7 continents, and his family has 2 kids, 2 dogs, and 1 cat. He definitely has a full house. Thank you so much for making time for us today, Mr. Valentine. With everything going on, I know you're at work, then you got the family, and then you showing up here, it really means a lot. So thank you. So
Thank you. Great to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So, guys, so we're going to start off with, just some questions that the students have asked and some questions that, people want to know within supply chain management. And I think the one thing that students did mention when I did have a chance to speak with them in one of the STS sessions, outside of the warehouse, outside of actually working with inside of the warehouse, what is there in, supply chain management and logistics? I mean, you guys have 20 plus years of a career. What does that, what parts and pieces did you tap into, and what did you see, and what is offered out there?
Yeah, I can kick it off if you like. I think, because we are in Memphis, there is a bit of a limited view of supply chain management, and assuming that what they see in the warehouse of FedEx or any of the others you see, because we're a distribution city, that is the breadth of supply chain. And really and truly, when you come into the corporate environment, you realize that every organization has a supply chain. It is
Mm,
supply chain management is, I think of it like, think of chains, like a full chain with links. And
mm,
each of those links represents a step in the process of getting your product, whatever it is, and sometimes it can even be a service, to your customer's door. So from the raw materials, where they go and source the needs of that product, to manufacturing that product, to putting that customer's order in the system, to making sure that order is made in a timely manner so that it meets the delivery date, to the transportation you put on that order and the costs, so looking at the costs associated with it, and then just looking at how efficiently that chain runs. That's supply chain management. It's how are we managing each link of that chain that's supplying our customers. So it's so far beyond just what you see in a warehouse in FedEx. So any organization, if they're wise, they have an area where individuals are focusing on making their efforts more efficient, and that represents supply chain management.
Yep, I think Gabby hit it on the head. The other part, if you think about it, just even a simpler method, if you think about McDonald's, if you still go to eat there or any type of fast food restaurant, hey, you go in and put your order, the person taking your order, hey, that's the order entry person for their part of the supply chain. You have somebody in the kitchen that's manufacturing, making the burger or your fries, that's part of the supply chain. The person that's bringing it to the front, just to your car and bringing it to you, that's supply chain. So you could think about it in a simplistic manner in that way, and pretty much reiterating what Gabby said, every company has one and has to invest in one to actually have a successful business and provide the service and the products to their end customer.
oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone touched on all great points. And it's just such a wonderful time to be in this field because of the automation and technology that's coming out. So it's constant, different facets that are trying to be advanced and accelerated. So there's so many different areas in which we're expanding into because of the speed and demand and how many different homes we want to reach. So.
No, that's interesting, Levon, because you did mention automation and AI
Mhm.
and everything, and that's definitely a hot topic for all college grads that are coming out. But you don't actually see it as something to be weary of or something to concern yourself with. It actually is something, an opportunity. And why do you have that perspective?
Yeah, because so I just a little backstory. I started inside facilities, supporting with outbound, but then I later transitioned to actually setting them up. So what I'm starting to see is a trend of increased automation to where we want to move fast to add more automation, but in adding more automation, we're also adding more technical skills, right? I'm seeing the headcount for maintenance go up as we add more robots and more innovative ways to get things from point A to point B quickly. But then we need more skilled services and more skilled detail labor to actually support the automation that we're adding. Some people are sometimes afraid of the automation piece, but it's creating more opportunities in a different aspect. So as our buildings increase with more conveyance and technology, the people that supports that in the background, that number is increasing as well.
Interesting. Now, Jonathan and Gabrielle, do y'all have an opinion on that, or where automation is taking the supply chain management world?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just adding on to what Levon mentioned, though. I mean, I feel like it's an exciting time. Of course, I definitely you see all the. Of course, we know the economy we're in right now. You see some of the layoffs and the shifts in the job market that we're experiencing now. So definitely empathize for people affected as well. But still think it's an exciting time for it because you're able to do more. And actually able to do it quicker. But the thing is, one that will never go away. You actually still need that people component. Still need to be able to talk to Gabby. I still need to be able to talk to Levon, especially then also having to try to be able to troubleshoot when something does happen with that automation. You need people to do that. So I feel like it would be best to be equipping yourself with the skill set and the learnings and the teachings that can actually help put you in front of trying to, I guess, put you in front of the curve without allowing automation to, take your role in your position. But I still think it's an exciting time though.
Yeah, I would agree. It makes me think about when we incorporated the internet, or when computers became, relevant. I think this is just another iteration of that at a much faster, more significant scale. I think that it would be wise, because I know in STS we're talking to students and things, it would be wise to ensure that you are always presenting yourself with the strongest package possible. I wouldn't say I'm concerned about it, but to act like it's, I don't think we should assume that it's not going to have an impact on the workforce, as Jonathan and Levon have said. I think it's important to plan for it. I think it's important to consider it, and I think it's important to be a factor in how you build your personal brand and how you represent yourself in the workplace and the effort that you make. I think all of this drives, because what used to take 3 hours can be literally done in 30 seconds. So when you're looking at, it used to take 5 people to do this job and now 1 or 2 can do it. You want to make sure you're that 1 or 2, that individuals, that companies are looking at this, say, hey, I really need to make sure I keep this person or invest in this person.
And then the other part, even if it's not automation, I know data visualization is a huge thing right now, which I know AI can do some of it, but still you have Power BI and some other tools that you can look up that you can get certifications in to learn, which I feel like would be great on a resume as you exit school or just trying to add to your toolkit if you're already in a profession.
I love that you mentioned that, Jonathan, about the data visualization, because I was just about to ask y'all, you're saying have the skill sets, you're saying, have that package. What do you think a college student in 2025, about to be 2026, what do you think is imperative for them to know going into that workforce? Like, what skills do you feel like they should cultivate right now?
Don't be afraid of AI. You have to leverage it, right? So with these tools available to us, they want us to utilize them because we're able to get results quicker, answer quicker, formalize data faster. So apparently, like before, when you had to pass on something or create all these massive spreadsheets, with the support of AI, you can do that in half the time, right? So leveraging the tools that are available to you so you can make a decision, right? And that's where people are going to be crucial, like the decision-making process, right?
Mhm.
Crunching data and numbers. Now we have tools that can help and assist us to where we can get that clean snapshot, assess the risk, and make the proper decision. We're going to need people for that, right? So leverage the tools, leverage the data, and be that person that makes the difference and makes the critical decision.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think I'll just add to that. I think don't lose sight of the fundamentals, right? Because I think with the incorporation of AI, data visualization, the big question has never, and I can only speak for my organization, I don't want to speak for others, but not whether someone can learn it. Because these are tools that we're confident that any professional can come in and learn, especially, you take Power BI, and many times the organizations are training you and teaching you. I think you want to make sure that you have those fundamentals coming into the workplace of, do you work hard? Do you do the base? Do you show up on time? Do you complete projects in a timely manner? Do you collaborate with others well? Those fundamentals will never go out of style. And I think if you have a good handle of those, and you are a strong, you produce strong results in what you're given, then you'll have the opportunity to learn those new tools. I don't think you necessarily have to come in with all those tools under your belt. I would be more concerned with having someone with those fundamental basics coming into the workplace, and then, you know, translating those, seeing opportunities to invest in individuals to grow in those areas.
That's a really good point, Gabby, because so I was an international paper with Gabby before I came to Savomo. But when I first started out, almost about 10 years ago, I was the person that had those soft skills, you know, being a team player, just getting the job done. I didn't have the Excel experience, the SAP experience, and things like that. But any job you go into, they can teach you those things. But hey, do you have those soft skills to actually be able to one, get the job done, but also being able to get the job done and have an impact across multiple functions or departments, and not just solely what you have in front of you as well.
So it's going into the emotional intelligence, soft skills, hard work ethic, pretty much. That should come into that, especially as a new hire. You know, that's what more so companies will probably sustain you before you know all the technical skills, but you're lacking those different things, especially with AI, because it can do the technical. And I do want to point out one thing, the fact that you said, Jonathan, that, you know, you used to work with Gabby. And one thing I've noticed over doing several of these this semester is that, you know, we find ourselves, when I have these conversations with these professionals, the network, they all find themselves somehow connected in some type of way. It's not that big of a pool of like professionals, especially in Memphis, who come from Memphis. And I think that kind of what makes me want to lead into the networking side of it, right? Because that is a part of, I mean, every career at this point. But, you know, could you give some tips on, you know, about that networking piece for the younger people so that they can excel in that supply chain career?
Hey, my biggest thing is, I don't remember who told me this, but networking is the new currency. Like,
Mm.
seriously, you have to be able to rely on others, and don't look at it from a competition standpoint. One, I mean, there's things that Levon and Gabby may know that I don't know, but also be putting myself in a humbling place to be able to ask those questions. What it is, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to spark a conversation with somebody, especially this call right here. Anybody listening to this, you can reach out to anybody, and I'm sure there'll be a listening ear for anything you're trying to do. And guess what? If they don't have the answer to it, that's the point of a network. They probably can point you to somebody that does, whether it's somebody in their organization or somebody from another organization or another function or field that you're interested in. So I say networking is important. I wouldn't be where I am today without it, honestly. It's not not sure knowing people. It's just, hey, being able to connect with different people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, socioeconomic paths, different things. You have to be able to connect with anyone. So networking is very important.
Yeah, I will concur. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with networking. It's, to Jonathan's point, it's absolutely necessary. And you know, in the corporate environment, it can be challenging. You know, it can be challenging, especially in a majority driven environment and you're the minority. I think that's why when you say, you know, we all tend to know each other, be connected in some way, it's because that's the most comfortable step first, you know, connecting with like-minded individuals. I will say this, you know, for me, networking has to be very authentic and pretty genuine. I'm not the best at always engaging when I'm not fully invested in it, you know, so I have tried to capitalize on the relationships that have felt the most genuine to me, where we've naturally kind of created a good working dynamic. You're someone that I respect, you're someone that I value, and I really make sure to put efforts and energy into that, and you know, really look for opportunities to grow and thrive in those. I think that you have to determine for your career and your experience, you know, um, if there's a how far you want to go and how much networking is going to have to play a role in it. You know, I think if you want to be a VP one day or you want to be a CFO, that's a different level of networking and engagement probably than if you're aspiring to a manager or director of a particular area. So I think it's kind of making those decisions and then engaging with people who are where you want to be so that you can know exactly what it's going to take and what type of interaction and relationship building is going to be needed to get to your next step.
Yeah, all great things for commented on. Networking has been very important in my career. It's been able to open up some different doors and different avenues for me. But um, it touches on so many things as far as where you want to go, what your next steps might be. It even creates the ability to grow and challenges you. For example, speaking just specifically in my experience, I had a chance to work with different countries, emerging countries. I got a chance to see how they did things in Spain and in Canada, and some of those networking abilities actually translated into performance improvements here in the U.S. So sometimes networking outside of the comfort zone or in areas where um, might challenge you opens up other opportunities for you to grow. So that's just different way of looking at it. But networking has been critical in my career. Also, kind of stepping away from direct path of logistics. I've also been a bar raiser within Amazon to kind of move over to other areas and network into fields outside of supply chain. So within Amazon, there's so many different facets. Networking sometimes just provides your next step as well. So I strongly encourage as you continue to grow, look at the different things and different avenues around the way and see how you can expand your brand. Your brand is everything within work. So.
And that's the other part you think about it, to add on to networking. I know something that's, especially in the professional setting, that everybody discusses or works on is a development plan as well. Kind of what Gabby alluded to, like, hey, knowing how far you want to go. So, hey, staying in tune with your manager or knowing it is what you want, having a development plan, it will kind of help with knowing who you need to network with and how much you need to network as well. So, hey, if in 10 years I want to be a manager, I might need to talk to, I might not need to talk to as many people as I do if I want to be their VP or director, like was mentioned as well. So I think just kind of knowing what it is you want to do. And even if you don't know what you want to do, still just trying to put something on paper just to get started, to have those conversations, because you might have a conversation with somebody that sparks interest in something that you didn't even know about. Just like we're talking now, everybody thinks about supply chain, it's just the warehouses. You have order entry, you have transportation. If you want something more people focused, you might want to be on the customer service facing order entry side. If you want to do analytics, maybe it's inventory. You're planning inventory, planning machines and different things. So there are a lot of different things within supply chain. It's just, hey, pretty much depends on what it is you want to do and how far you want to go and what work you're willing to put in.
I definitely want to thank y'all for mentioning that development plan and thinking about where you want to go. I had never even heard of that, and I'm a seasoned professional, so I definitely thank y'all. And since we're talking to college students, even if you're not in the corporate space already, you can create those development plans with an advisor. With AI, you can use those resources to already kind of map out the type of people you need to network and reach out to them on LinkedIn and different things like that. A lot of people, one thing I learned during my college journey is that people love talking to college students, information interviews and stuff like that. They'll hop on a call, a C-suite executive. So definitely please take advantage of those resources as you have them, because it gets a lot harder when you're out in the world. And, when you're a college student, you're almost like everyone's baby. So,
and that's the thing. One thing to mention as well, like you're talking about college students as well. Like, hey, y'all have career fairs at whatever college you go to. Use AI for that. Hey, what company is coming? What are the biggest things they're working on? Where are their values? You can create prompts for all that to where you don't have to go to a lot of different Google sites. You can do that now easily. So you know who the key players are, what companies you want to talk to when you go into those fairs, and you make yourself stand out as a better candidate. Also being able to talk about a company versus coming there and asking them questions that you could have looked up. So AI is something that could look those things up for you and help you stand out.
Absolutely. Great piece of advice. Like since we're speaking about the college experience, and I did want to ask you guys theory versus real life. So when you guys were in school learning about supply chain management, different things, and then you actually got into the field, what were, things that you felt were different or similar, or, did you actually even use any of the skill sets or knowledge that you learned in the classroom?
No, I did. So, I went to school for finance. But when I was in school, I kind of worked my way out through logistics. I started off as a selector at Walmart. So I worked in the warehouse, and where I'm at now, I would never be able to forecast that, right? But um, my first snapshot of warehousing was always just the actual task, right? But it goes beyond just picking a box and getting a box to its final destination. There's so many other things that are detailed in that process and so many other opportunities created, um, all in the back end with quality control, suppliers and vendors. The first initial snapshot, all you see is a building, racking and boxes, right? But it goes so much deeper than that. It is basically like the life stream and blood flow of the US.
Mm.
Anything that you want or anything that you're getting here has to come through some type of logistics system. So it's a very critical field.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I'm about to date myself. I'm probably the most seasoned person on this call. So I'm trying, it's been a while since I was in school, but I will say that, you know, I've recruited, so I managed our college recruiting program at International Paper for about 4 years. And so I've been around to many campuses and have spent some time in classrooms and things. And I will say, there's a pretty wide gap between theory and application, right? And I even tell this to the professors in the classroom that will give feedback on, kind of what it's like in corporate America. And they maybe have never been in the workplace, and I will say sometimes it was a bit more stringent what the theoretical view was than what the application was. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, it's not that critical, some of the things that they were talking about. But I think in the classroom, again, I keep going back to those fundamentals in my mind. That's what keeps coming up because I remember in the classroom when I was in business school, understanding that, there was a problem that needed to be solved. And many times I was going to need to have to solve it with a group of people and us staying aligned and on the same page. I was going to need to understand the background. I was going to need to understand the external impacts, and I was going to need to be diligent about coming to a conclusion in a timely manner. And then, checking and adjusting. I think those basics will show up in the workplace. A lot of the rest of it, probably not, it's probably a lot of what you do, you'll do it in school and you'll move away from it. But I think those fundamentals will absolutely stay the same. And really, it's interesting coming off the networking question, because what has sustained the most has been the people I went to school with. So the relationships that I made and the companies that they work for and how I've been able to bounce certain situations off of them. I manage a supply chain team here in Memphis. I have a friend who manages a team in New York, and we talk and we say, we talk about what she's experiencing and, how we can give each other insight and perspectives on what we're working through. So those dynamics were pretty significant as well. But yeah, the coursework is not necessarily something that stayed with me, but again, those fundamentals are those building blocks that stayed with me over time.
Yeah, and if you're willing to learn, I mean, you can learn it because I have an economics background, so I honestly wasn't even planning for supply chain. So economics, and it was through networking I actually got on International Paper. But yeah, I mean, things I learned in school, like you think about forecasting, like hey, if I'm expecting, so we're in a paper manufacturing company with Esavamo, but you always, if you think about supply chain, just think about creating a plan, but having to revise that plan over and over and over because things are going to happen. And it's something that you possibly don't see in school because, hey, sometimes things are going to show up later than you expect it to show up. You're going to have a machine that's possibly going to break down. You have to pull for different sources of supply. So those are the different things that you kind of learn along the way. Some of the theory applies to it, but I agree with Gabby as well. Some of it is actually probably a little bit more stringent than what you actually experience in the workplace. But hey, the thing I love about it the most is always coming in with something new to be solved or trying to create a mitigation plan for it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I will add, when I was in school, there wasn't even a supply chain major. Supply chain management didn't even exist. I interned with at Otis Elevator in Connecticut and United Technologies. And I interned in their marketing and development, and they had a small piece of supply chain management that began to get me exposure there. So as we've talked about, supply chain conceptually has always existed, but the direct, kind of creation and cultivation of this field is a fairly new entity, but it's something that has always been a part of a business's product processes.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Oh, no, what were you saying, Jonathan?
Oh no, yeah, I was gonna say yeah, it's always been around. I think supply chain a lot of light got shed on it during COVID when people stopped receiving pretty much all their packages on time when things started being delayed. That it was supply chain being impacted pretty much from a global standpoint. So it's been around and forever will be here.
So speaking of COVID and like all these disasters and having to mitigate and different things like that, like how how did you guys navigate those like major interruptions and different things that come up like tariffs and different things? Like, could you explain like some of the thought process or, how you pivot?
You have to be extremely flexible.
Mm.
Those times created a lot of opportunities to be creative. It put a strain on suppliers, it put a strain on labor, and creativity and thinking outside the box is going to be critical during those times. But I think everyone came out stronger from that event. It required us to be adaptable and come up with some pretty cool initiatives pretty quickly. And I don't think we've ever reset from that.
Oh,
Even after COVID and the pandemic, once you've done it once and shown you can pivot and change directions and bring resources in quickly, we never really kind of slowed down from that pace because we were able to see how quickly we can adjust. One particular example is, uh, especially during the pandemic, we having people close together and the proximity was definitely an issue amongst all essential workers. So we had to create technology to where it censored off alarms when people were too close to others. That didn't wasn't required before, but there was a need for it now. So that had to be created. And there's just the list of things go on and on that had to kind of be innovated and created during this pandemic, and it never really stopped. So no, it made us stronger, definitely.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and I do some supplier relations working with external people. Actually, IP is actually one of our suppliers of boxes as well. But so
Yes.
like during the pandemic, like we normally ordering some of the supplies that we need on a monthly basis. We're using it up in that month and then expecting more to come in. So just imagine if I was telling one of my customers there's something they needed for this month, we couldn't get it for 3 months. So in that case, you either have a customer they can decide to wait that 3 months, or they're probably going to try to go find a supplier that can get it for them quicker. So one thing that the team had to do is one, we had to collaborate on, hey, what can we do since we can't get this product? So it was a film that actually came from overseas that we couldn't get. So some of our marketing team members got together to think about it, like, hey, do we actually have to have this poly wrapping on the paper that we're giving to the customer? Can we just switch them just to using paper to where we can get it within 2 weeks instead of waiting 3 months? So we had to think about our service offering, and we actually made that decision on some things to switch it from pretty much one substrate to another just to be able to get it in time. And some of those items are still in their substrate at this moment now. So different things like that, putting your head together. If you meet a roadblock this way, what else can you do? And then tariffs is a huge one right now. Levon mentioned about working with different countries. We're a global company as well. So pretty much we had kind of a overall strategy that and not to say too much of overall strategy that we wanted to deploy. But when the tariffs came into play, it made one of those strategies way more expensive to do. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and now we have a plan 1A, 1B, 1C, plan 2, like pretty much just depending on if the tariffs go into effect, if they don't go into effect, if they get raised or lowered to this level, which way to go. So we have all those playbooks that now we have in our back pocket, and we might need to switch on a dime to implement if it depending on if a decision is made. So it's things like that. It's being and being willing to have that flexibility, but also the intellectual horsepower. And lastly, the collaboration amongst most people, because these are not decisions you can make in a silo by yourself. You're normally involved in 5 or 6 different functions. You have sales involved, you have supply chain involved, manufacturing, transportation. So you got to think about the downstream effects, upstream effects, and that's what the supply chain is. What are you doing to overall one, meet the customer's demand, but also trying to satisfy the needs of the company as well.
It sounds like a very fun but high stakes, intense industry. So
It is.
yeah, like quick question, what's the work-life balance like for you guys? I know you guys do two different jobs, but do you have a good work-life balance?
I would say I have a good work-life balance. It ebbs and flows. Of course, you never are just going to have all the time in the world, but so within my job, we actually have a hybrid schedule. So we're in the office 3 days a week, and then we're remote for 2 days of the week. Is pretty much what we do now. Actually, during COVID, though, when COVID hit, of course, I think it was like March with 2020, I guess, when it got announced that it was a global pandemic. We went home and we actually did 100% remote for, I think, 3 years. It was probably like 2020 to 2023. And but that also proved though that hey, you didn't have to fully be in the office to actually get the job done, to collaborate, to pivot. That's why a lot of you think about it, AI and a lot of other online resources have to be utilized now. But I would say I have a good work-life balance. I'm on the clock right now. I'm actually able to sit here and talk with STS. My team knows about it. It's not like I'm hiding anything. I'm able to volunteer to give back time on the clock because hey, I mean, we want to get back to the communities that we're involved in as well from that standpoint. So I would say I have a good work-life balance. There are some weeks where I'm like, man, I'm a little bit more stressed, but then there are other weeks where it's a little more manageable. So you have to take the ebbs and the flows with it. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
That is real.
Yep.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. Yeah, it comes and it goes. I'm 100% virtual, but I have like 90% travel. So it could be any one week I could be in one state, another week I could be in another state. Every once in a while, I do some international traveling. So it does wear with the bouncing back all around, changing the different time codes and stuff. But overall, like I'm able to speak on this call right now, right? But yeah, I'm still on the clock, right? There's some times when I travel, I get ahead of my work, and if I'm in a nice area, I can enjoy the local scenery, right? One of the big things that my colleagues and I we try to do is when we go out to eat, we usually ask the locals what the best dish is in the area, right? So we try to make the best of it. And the opportunities that you get to see with the travel are amazing. So work-life balance, it comes and it goes. So with mine, because I'm trying to set sites up, I have the reverse of peak. So I'm real busy prior to peak. So prior to when we get into like October, November, December, when we really get that holiday rush to where anywhere from February all the way up to September. Um, that is like a busy time for me to where all hands on deck, trying to get all set facilities up and running to where we can meet whatever supply chain demands that are required for the holidays. So one of the benefits of that is, okay, when I was in the building, Christmas and Thanksgiving, those are really tight operational windows for people that are in the facility to where that's kind of when I slow down. So that's one of the benefits from switching over. But you got to make the best of it, right? We get a lot of freedom, a lot of power, but when it's on, it's on. So
Yeah,
Mm.
and with it as well, like we have a standard, 8 to 5 work day, but it might be some days I might come in earlier, or some days I might stay later, and just depending on what I have going on though. But the thing that my company does prioritize is being able to, be there for your family, taking appointments and different things that's needed. And I've always had the liberty to do that if the time came up.
That's good. Because I was wondering, like, if something melts down in the middle of the night, like, are you on call? Do you have to hop on a Zoom call with Shanghai really quick or something like that?
For some
every
for,
once
for
in a
some
while,
Yeah, I was about to say
I'm
for
sorry.
some of the people, my bad, man. For some people on our side, yeah, they do have to on the weekend. They might be on call. Those are some of our more of our entry level roles, but there have been times where sometimes the meal might reach out to me because we didn't receive some just to kind of ask some on the weekend. But it's normally not too much work, just being there to kind of provide some guidance when needed.
Mm.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. Before this call, my phone's going off, but right now this is priority, right? So I could get back to that after this session, but it never stops. That's the thing about logistics. It never there's never a slow moment. You have to create your balance. So
Mhm. So, in terms of since we're already kind of talking about what it's like for you guys, like again, you both are in different roles. Like walk us through a day in your life, right? Like, do you take meetings, or are you more so on a spreadsheet, or Levon, you say you're pulling up different sites, or are you more so like actually there, on site? Um,
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on site. It just depends what phase we're in. So like we have two main focuses. Some right now, a lot of our focus is with retrofits. So taking existing buildings and bringing new automation and getting them up to whatever our current standards are. And then we have like greenfield sites to where they're brand new. We're building them from the ground up. So depending on the project, sometimes I'm required to be on site a little bit more than others. And then other times, it could just be just checking in, following out to make sure everything is running correctly, making sure that the building's hitting its throughput goals. That is more of a virtual stand back to where I can support from home. But the actual like execution and getting the building up and functional, that sometimes requires me to be there, depending on what type of project I'm working on.
Mm.
And then from my side, excuse me, from my side, a lot of mine is meeting. I'm here stationed in Memphis, but I work with parties. Our manufacturing facilities, some of them in upstate New York, Ticonderoga, some in South Carolina, South Carolina, some in Alabama. So I support them mainly here from the U.S. standpoint, and mainly my calls that I have is meeting with suppliers to just one, making sure hey things are delivering on time, making sure the meal has what they need, and getting it. On the other side of it, though, when they're not getting what they need in time, that's where it kind of compose pros some problems because now I need to figure out okay what needs to be done to either meet that date or to pivot to try to run something else to make sure our machines don't go down. So one thing about us, like machines always have to keep running; they're running pretty much 24/7. So we have to make sure we have the correct packaging for them. From that side. But it all kind of depends. Sometimes on the manufacturing side, they need me more. Sometimes our sales team may need me more. It might have a forecast that might have changed or something from that nature. Sometimes raw materials might not be coming in time for things that we may need. So one of my most exciting things now, I've been working with our teams in Brazil and some in Sweden as well, which gives me exposure to them, which I know Levon mentioned. So kind of figuring out some of the ways that they do things, learning to do different metric systems, processes that we can implement here in the U.S. and then same that we can send back to them as well. So it's a mix. I really do call myself the middleman within the role that I am because I sit in the middle of at least 7 or 8 different functions. So on them times when I say I don't too much have a work-life balance, it's more than likely that each one of those functions need me at once. So it's they're working on the priority, trying to priority set who needs this, when to jump on this call. Then the other side of it is only a few of them. It might be a little manageable where I can be a little more proactive with it. You know, some of my spreadsheets, process improvements, looking for cost savings, different things like that. So it ebbs and flows. I know I've mentioned that a million times, but it does.
I just say both of y'all like sound like y'all are working on much like some pretty interesting projects. But one thing that I noticed with both of you guys, like communication. Communication seems to be the key to succeeding like in the roles because you guys have to like talk to different teams, like you're talking all day, it sounds like.
The
Yeah.
people aspect is critical. Like
Mhm.
I know we talked about automation, AI, but I think we like Jonathan, you might have said it early on in the beginning, you have to be able to deal with people. I don't care how much we automate, how much technology we bring in. At the end of the day, it's still a person making a decision, and to drive that alignment and to be able to collaborate and bring everyone into the same goal is going to be key in this business. No matter what department or role you're working in or what technology you have available to you, at the end of the day, people have to kind of trust your advice, follow you, and you have to drive alignment. So the people aspect is critical here.
And that's the thing is you don't even have to be the expert in whatever you're working on as well. That's something I definitely want to reiterate to people. It's okay to be ignorant and not know, but it's not okay to not go find out though. I feel like it's one of the biggest things because I would pick up the phone and admit to anybody that I don't know something, but ask that expert about it, and either they can give me the information, or I'll put them on a phone call with somebody I know that needs that information and make that connection there. So you have to communicate, and I think the biggest thing that I see a lack of now sometimes is just following up. Hey, if you're saying you're going to do something, do it. Like I would rather be able to tell one of you, like, hey, I need to get this done and not have to follow up a week later to see if it got done or anything. I'd rather you just come back to me and, communicate that, even if it is a delay or going to take longer than that. Just, hey, being upfront about it and trying to be as proactive as possible. I feel like it's a big part of communication that I would like to see more of as well.
I love that. Like, again, these are those little nuggets that like you wouldn't learn in a classroom. They're not telling you. So students definitely take notes because, you know, that's how you move up the ladder. And speaking of moving up the ladder, right, as you guys have progressed within your career, what do you feel like is different from when you were doing like the entry level supply chain and logistics to where you currently are now? Like, what do you do differently? Are you more so just delegating now? Are your hands more in the work? Are you more so the decision maker?
Yeah, I do more delegation now, but that's going to be key, right? I think when I first transitioned, as you move up, sometimes you want to own everything, right? And as you continue to kind of move into different roles, you can't own everything, right? Um, you're gonna have to be able to trust. You're gonna have to be able to verify. You're gonna have to be able to utilize your team members and skills around you, so you can have a full, complete project or process, right? So as you continue to grow in whatever field you decide to, you have to leverage and know you can't be the doer of all tasks, right? You got individual contributors, you got managers. As you continue to decide on what role and what scope, how it expands, you have to be able to leverage all the people in the group.
Mm.
And not too much to add. The delegation. That's I've been working on that a lot this year because I like to consider myself a doer. I like to knock it out because I know for sure it's going to get done. But I've definitely had to leverage asking people for help or asking if they can do something a lot more because then that allows you to focus on the higher priority things that you probably need to do from that side of it. But the biggest thing that he mentioned as well, which I like to say is trust but verify as well. That's the other thing. Hey, even though you pass something off, although it is your responsibility, you pass it off for somebody to do, you can trust their information, but sometimes you might have to go behind it because I have been burnt before where hey, I just trusted some data, some information I got, I pass it along and they've received the information and it's like, oh, this doesn't look too correct and having to go back and forth. So I mean it happens though. Those hiccups happen, everything you learn along the way, but you have to delegate in your later careers of your role. And that's the thing. And sometimes you're delegating to people that don't report to you as well. So you might have to delegate or ask for support from different functions, different counterparts as well on that side of things. And goes back to it. That's where the people in the communication come in.
I definitely didn't think about that delegation to other teams. And thanks so much for joining us again, Gabrielle. We were talking about went from like when you were more in your entry level role to where you currently are, like what's different? Are you delegating more or are you more so the decision maker? You know, what is the difference?
Yeah, that it was a pretty significant shift for me from being an individual contributor to being a manager,
Mhm.
because you're not a doer anymore, right? You don't do the work. You are ensuring other people get the work done, and you're motivating them, and you're encouraging them, and you're kind of overseeing. And so that was hard for me because there are many times where I'm looking at, I was like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. But if I just go in and do it, then that impacts the strength of my team and their capabilities, and also their faith, their understanding of my faith in them and their ability to do their work. So I really, it was a big opportunity for me to kind of get hands off and step back and let folks actually do the tactical work, and really focus on developing individuals and holding people accountable and really dealing with conflict and getting involved in all of those pieces that I never really had to before as an individual contributor. So it was a pretty significant shift for me.
Mm, interesting. So do you guys like the doing or the managing more?
Now I like the managing. At the beginning, I was like, I could probably go back to the doing because it's such a learning curve, right? And you can't get around it. You can't get over it. You have to go through those experiences. Like you have to learn from experience. I think you can read all the books that you want, and those are helpful. And you can talk to colleagues and get wisdom from other individuals. But so much is learned by experience. And once you start to get some positive experiences under your belt, and you learn from the mistakes that you make because you're going to make them, and you get some of those growth strategies under your belt, then I really started to like it and kind of thrive in it. But it took a bit of time to say, oh, and then I, just people, like somebody didn't like me today, because I had to give them some difficult feedback that they didn't agree with. And I had to show them, why I was giving them the feedback I was giving. That's never pleasant. That's never exciting, So, again, but getting to the point where you learn to grow people through those experiences, and that what you're giving them, they'll be much better on the other side once they get through this. Those are the pieces that have been very rewarding for me.
It comes and goes for me, because sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to leave people. And mainly when it happens, it's usually when I get home. So I'm like, when I get home and I'm with my wife, I'm like, I don't want to make another decision. It's like, you don't have that choice anymore. I mean, like, this is when I need you to be that rock star, right? So just finding that balance, like not just being a rock star at work, but also being a rock star at home as well. Um, this job can be very demanding, but remember, we have our responsibilities are at our home as well. So the biggest thing that I had to learn is can't give 110% at work and only 50% at home. You have to have that balance to be able to excel there, but also save some of your tank for later on to make those critical decisions at home, right? So please keep that in mind. It has to be a balance.
And I'm in between. I mean, actually, I enjoy leading people as well, but I have more indirect reports than I do direct reports. People that lean on me for guidance and everything. So, but still, formally, though, I actually have a team member that reports to me that's actually in Poland, and I honestly don't even see her as a direct report because she can manage just about the same level of workload that I have. So I can like kind of give things to her to handle. But I also have had it on the other side though, like Gabby mentioned, having to have those difficult conversations when there aren't meeting those expectations. But it's so fruitful though to see when they go get through on the other side, like you mentioned, on the other side of it, where they were disliking you doing it, or like, why are you picking on me and everything, and then they get through it and like, oh, I can tell that I've grown in the last year. I've learned these different things. I'm not doing some of the things that were hurting my career in the past. Becomes fruitful. Because if you ask me if I want to be individual contributor again, I'd probably say no, but I'm okay with doing this well. Like you can put me in a corner by myself, I'll get the job done and then come out and come speak to people when I need to and everything. So I can kind of manage both sides of it. So it depends.
I definitely
Yeah,
understand.
when I was an individual contributor, I always give a manager feedback. I'd rather you be transparent and direct than calm. I don't need kindness. I want you to be direct and transparent, and that's the way I lead. So.
I love that. I love that. So we got a bunch, we have some managers that like, y'all can kind of pivot, because I've definitely had conversations where some people just love being an individual contributor or love being a manager. So it's interesting seeing like the different mix depending on where you are in your career. But one thing I do want to ask, since you guys again have traveled up a little bit up that ladder, what is the proudest moment of your careers?
And that's an easy one for me. So when I was a part of International Paper back in 2020, it actually was announced that our Department of International Paper, which is called North American Papers, so we produce the copy paper, anything that you put in the printer, we produce that, and some of the rolls as well. So International Paper announced that they were going to be spinning off our department to become its own company. That's actually when I first got into the role that I'm in now. But if you think about packaging, anything like branding, logos, and materials and everything, those are kind of what I work with. So as you can see, like kind of this Savomo logo that I have like on my hoodie right now, all of the packaging that we have, since we were about to become our own standalone company, all of that packaging we had across the US had to be updated to change from being International Paper to having Savomo on it. So I had it's like 1,000 different components that had to be updated. So you're talking about labels that went on cartons, that went on the reams, ring wrap boxes that we had to have updated. So I was coming into a new role that I had no idea what it was. I just know we're going to a new company and everything, but I had to make that happen. Like I said, across there's 1,000 different components, like 500 materials. I had to lead projects with people that were the experts, and I was just kind of being the project manager on it though. But we had to do that within a year's time frame though. Just that's when our contract was expired with IP to get everything updated. But I had to do that within a year time frame to minimize how much finished goods and packaging that we would have to write off. So we ended up getting it done within the timeline frame and saved millions of dollars on actually making it happen. But it was one of my most stressful times, but coming out on the other side of it was one of my most fruitful because I learned a lot within that small time frame. It's probably why I don't have as much hair on my head now, but still excited about it.
Snaps to that, Jonathan. That's dope. That's really, really dope.
Awesome. Every year it's another challenge, but several years ago, we had someone on the capacity team miss a decimal point, so we weren't going to meet peak. So we were like 15 sites that we had to get up and running prior to peak. I was able to successfully, and these sites were all over. We had several on the West Coast, some Midwest, some on the East Coast. So total of 15 sites that we had to get fully operational. And I got an Amazon Galaxy Award for doing it. But after that, the work just keeps coming. So this year, I have one of the biggest sites on the East Coast that's supplying all of New York. And we had to bring that timeline in by 3 months. We were able to successfully do that. So once you hit one achievement, the next one is gonna be tapping you on the shoulder shortly after. So it's a marathon.
That's good.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's people related. I'm trying to go back all the years, but the one that sticks out the most to me, one of the things well, let me say again, I'm from Memphis. I ride hard from Memphis. I'm a Memphian. And, at International Paper, we have Memphians. We don't have as many as I would like.
Yep.
And we definitely don't have as many that look like us as I would like. And so one of the beautiful things that I had the opportunity to do, as a manager is to hire young Memphians. And there's one particular individual that sticks in my mind that I remember when he came in for an internship, and he was from rural Mississippi and had moved to Memphis, and from the country, but smart, and had held a lot of responsibility from a young age, but didn't have a typical corporate resume. And so I was talking to him in the interview, and I was talking to some others, and I'll be fully transparent. One of the things about being a minority manager is that, it's like the people that you hire are representations of you. It's one thing for you to give me a person, but if I hired the person, then their performance, whether it's in my mind or not, but I don't think it's fully in my mind, their performance is a representation of me. And so, or if I refer someone, that individual, or if I bring them in from my college, they're a representation of me. And so I was very early in my managerial career, I was very careful about who I hired and who I brought in. And so this person, I felt very strongly about him. I was like, I think he'll do a great job, but there were some things that weren't typical, corporate representations. And so, I was like, but I'm gonna take a chance. We're gonna take a chance here. And long story short, he has just been exceptional. You know what I mean? Not just in his career, and I can't even take all the credit for it. There have been so many people that have rallied around him and really because he didn't need any help with the work. He just needed to know he belonged. Like he needed to see himself here. And to see him now, seeing himself here and thriving and hearing people call his name and say how well he's doing, or I need him. You know what I mean? I heard somebody say before, I need him because he knows how to do this and I know he's going to get the job done. Like that to me is just, one of the pinnacle moments in my career that I can look back and say that there were individuals who maybe other people in the company didn't see that this is a person who fits here, that brings a lot of value here and now. Hopefully their perspectives are opening, their thoughts are opening, and what they thought success or what they thought value or what they thought, the next leader looks like, and shifting that a little bit. And those individuals being young Memphians coming up, I feel like that's a pretty proud moment for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Like, I love how you, just invested in that person and watched them bloom. Spoken like a true manager, Gabrielle. You really.
It didn't take a lot. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to say it like this young man is smart and he's capable and he's like, he didn't need a whole bunch from me other than, you deserve to be here. You can be here. You know, he did 80% of the work himself.
That is so beautiful. Thank y'all for sharing that. Y'all accomplishments. I'm telling you, it's such a great panel we got. I do want to ask, since we, got all the, gushy feels, okay, what's the hardest part, right, about being in supply chain? I know we talked about the difficulty and the pivoting and all that, but what is something that's just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I think people should, the students need to like a reality check. They need to prepare themselves when entering that field, like the difficulty of that.
Man, I know we talk about being flexible, but things are always changing. I've been in supply chain, honestly, just corporate America for 10 years now. And I just had a call about some org structure changes that we're about to happen again. Like it's been literally, I have not went a year without having an org structure change. So within that, the org structure change doesn't necessarily mean somebody's being laid off, but people are moving in different ways. So different management styles are being imposed. You might have a function that's reporting separately now that was previously. But I think the constant change. So whenever I know I talked about it earlier, like a lot of different indirect functions, I guess indirect reports of functions that I work with. So when everybody needs me at once, so when sales, manufacturing, supply chain, transportation, everybody needs the supplier, everybody needs me at once. It sometimes can get overwhelming from that side of it. And especially when you had a plan that you just knew was a surefire plan that was going to get the job done. Now you have to scrap it and start over and go back through it again. I would say that's probably one of my most stressful times that it kind of happens or that occurs within my role from that side of it. But I also find that, I mean, I get some adrenaline from having a lot of work as well. But then when it kind of goes above that bar of what I want it to be, that's when hey, I might go to the parking lot, take a walk in between meetings or something like that, just to clear my head, because you definitely have to have that. But I would say the constant change is one of the things that can be most stressful as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to piggyback. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd have to piggyback. There's a lot of change within the industry, especially right now. Being able to pivot and adjust to it. It's at the same time it's exciting, but it does get exhausting.
Yeah.
Especially when you're committed and you probably started something or created something. Sometimes, especially when people excel at something, they're intimate to the work to where they want it to succeed. But you can't get attached to anything within logistics because it could be the way of the future 1 minute and then the change in direction the next. So having that level of flexibility is something that you have to get used to in this line of work. And then like right now, we have a big focus on ASIN placement. And any given time, that decision can take me to another area. I have to be able to be flexible, adjust to it, and get the job done. But it can be very taxing sometimes.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'll say the hardest part for me has been, feeling like you have the best solution and that solution is not the one that's implemented, because in supply chain, it's not finance, right? It's not 1 + 1 = 2 always, it's we have a problem and what is the best way to go about solving this problem? And, experience plays a part in the solution driving and things like that. But, again, you're usually working within a group and sometimes the decision that you feel is best is not the one that, the majority goes with. And it's like, because whether you have that experience to say, okay, I know what you're about to do is not going to work. It's not going to work, but, or you just, your customer really well and you feel like, this approach is not the best approach for them. I think those moments are the ones that, if I do get frustrated, can frustrate me the most because I'm like, we're not operating as well as we could be. We're not handling this the way we could. But I think, in anything, the great thing is if it works out, then great. And if it doesn't, you come back around with, your opportunity in the second cycle and say, hey, I really think we need to give this a try or, and try to drive, those improvements that way. But yeah, that's probably for me. In addition to Jonathan and Levon are exactly right. It's a constantly changing business, but also not being able to implement a fix that you think would be the most effective in a situation.
And I think you just hit on one of the other points about it too. When you start off entry level, you're always going to have the entry level versus the experienced person dynamic that happens. The experienced person is going to say, "Hey, I know we've done this before. We've tried it. It didn't work." The entry level person, I'm like, "Hey, well, let's give it a try again." Or, "How you thought about it? That works." So you're going to have that constant back and forth that happens, which hopefully pushes you toward the best solution. But that dynamic is going to happen as well. And then you have some people that you got to always think about the upstream effects, downstream effects of other functions sometimes as well. And sometimes you might be supply chain. Normally, in our case, is the one that's stuck left holding the bag on some of the decisions where we have to kind of take on the burden as well. So hey, when do we get the opportunity to push that back towards finance or somewhere else and everything? So you have that dynamic that plays a lot into it too.
Yeah, and I'll keep going a little bit. I think even office dynamics, corporate dynamics play a part of that too. Because sometimes the leader, I'll just be honest, sometimes the leader is not the most experienced, maybe not the most knowledgeable, you know what I mean? And they may make a decision for a myriad of reasons that, may not be the best. And, you have someone sitting over here who has all this experience, and that perspective is the one we need to be driving towards, and for any number of reasons we can't, and so it's dealing with those dynamics and dealing with the fallout of those dynamics that can be challenging.
Yeah, and just because you have a title doesn't make you a leader. You are a leader without a title. So just because you have that title doesn't change any dynamic or perspective.
I love that. And I love like when we get towards the end of the interviews, everybody kind of, we're getting in our flow, everyone's like talking and stuff. But I did like, and not to harp on it and not to make it sound like a job interview or whatever. Can y'all tell us about a time, let's get into the more vulnerable stuff where you made a suggestion and it failed and you had to deal with that? Or when you were in a team meeting and they didn't listen to you, and what did you do? Like, how do you navigate that? Those corporate dynamics. Kind of give the students that, those real personal stories.
Yeah, I can recall being on a team call, disagreeing with the decision or way we were going. But it's always good to maintain your composure, right? Don't get frustrated, especially when you're leading teams, right? So always find that safe space to kind of vent, and don't be so direct or frustrated on the call, right? Even when you disagree with the direction, there's a way to do it. There's a way to articulate it and come across where you have differences, but don't lose your cool. And sometimes you can be on some heated conversations, heated discussions, right? But in that moment, you have to grab your composure and say, hey, this is like, let me articulate the right way. If I want to vent, I have a special space for that, but not on a call, right? So never let the moment get too big for you. Even if you're frustrated, take that time to reflect, reset, and think before you speak. Because supply chain can be very challenging, and they could sometimes make you do things that you completely disagree with. But never lose your cool on the call. All right, always maintain your composure.
Yeah, and from my side, I made mistakes this summer that I'm still trying to mitigate right now. We've had so we like normally for back to school is a huge time for us. Everybody's going back to school. Everybody wants paper and certain types of paper. So I remember last year the special substrate we needed, just a poly paper that we needed last year. We couldn't keep up with it enough. So this year I was like, I'm gonna get ahead of the game and work with the sales rep, get a forecast so I can plan ahead. So I'm normally planning a month out. I went ahead and planned it 2-3 months out. Hey, let's go ahead and build all this inventory. Well, the forecast and the sales didn't come in to exactly what we thought it would be. So we have a clause though with one of our suppliers to where they only hold that inventory on their floor for up to maybe about 2 months, and then we have to take it onto our floor. And once it transitions from the supplier to us, there's working capital that goes on our floor. So I've had one of the mills call me. The first supplier called me like, "Hey, we're at that 60-day clause, so it's time for you to take the inventory." Versus now I have to talk to the mill who already has an abundance of this inventory on hand, and I had to tell them to take on more. Now they're asking me like, well, what happened? So I had to explain to them that like, hey, I pre-built didn't come in as needed, but I need you to take that inventory. So now on their side, though, they have to figure out if they have the space for it, but then our company is taking on more working capital. So this is about $100,000 in inventory within it, which is, it's not huge, but still for that meal location specifically, though, they're being looked at it like they're over ordering, which actually was the issue on my side. So that's just one of the recent hiccups I've had. I've owned up to it. Everybody knows about it. But the thing is, when you do have those mistakes, though, hey, own up to it. Hey, provide your details and your logic, your thought process for why you did it. And as long as that, lines up and everything, you're not trying to throw anybody else on the bus, sweeping under the rug, just getting in front of it as soon as possible. I feel like they still best sets you up for success for future things that, may happen, whether it's the correct decision or if you, had a hiccup.
Yeah, I think there have been a multitude of occasions where, I felt like either I wasn't listened to or, I took something a direction that was off center. The biggest takeaway I can think from both of them, I think early in my career, if I didn't agree with something, or I not necessarily didn't agree, but it wasn't the direction that I thought was best, I probably would have just, you go along with it in the sense of I'm gonna keep doing my job, and I'll see this through to where it needs to. I think the difference from then and now is that I fully recognize that whether I agree with the decision or not, the decision still impacts me, still impacts my paycheck. So it's less about, is it a decision I agree with, and more about how are we going to make this decision work. Once we've gotten there, like, I think I've learned to disconnect at the decision table once the decision's made and say, hey, everybody, we can clamor back and forth, and everybody can push their positions, but once we decide what decision we're going with, even if I didn't fully agree with it at the time, I'm 100% behind it when we're charging forward, right? Because the success of this benefits all of us. And if this doesn't succeed, it impacts all of us. So it became less about necessarily being my suggestion being implemented per se. I want to make sure I'm heard, right? And I want to make the best case. But once we've gotten to the point of a decision, whether I think it's the best one or not, I'm going to drive it the exact same way, because, I want my bonus check to reflect it. I want my paycheck, I want opportunities, whatever I need to do to make this be successful, I'm going to do it.
One thing I noticed in all of you guys' responses to that, because I really enjoyed the variety, was it all kind of touched on having that self accountability and that agency, regardless of what happens. Okay, what is next? Are we, Gabrielle, like how you mentioned, it's not about being right. It's about, okay, whatever decision is made, our paychecks are affected, so let's make sure it works out. I love how you mentioned, Jonathan, pretty much okay, if you do make a mistake, it happens, take accountability, and it actually can propel you forward. When people see you can take that L and, fix it and take accountability and own that, that's a leader, like you said, right? And Lavon, just, I really love that piece of just don't let your emotions take a control of you. You have control, have that safe space to vent, but, carry on with that professionalism while still advocating for yourself. I just love all those responses, because those are nuggets that, regardless if you go into supply chain management or not, this is going in corporate America, or even if you go into a trade or something, I think that these are nuggets of wisdoms, kind of going back to what you say, Gabrielle, going back to those fundamentals, those blocks. So thank y'all so much. Now we're gonna we have 2 more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up. Well, for one, we're gonna do the lightning round, and I'm just gonna ask you guys some quick fun questions, and you give your short answers, just so we can see who you guys are, what you value, and different things like that. So one thing, the first one is coffee, energy drink, or sheer adrenaline. What powers you through deadlines?
Adrenaline for me. I feel like coffee and energy drinks are placebos for me.
You will.
I'm coffee. I used to do the energy drinks, but I can't do it no more. Coffee for me now.
Yeah, chest gonna be hurting. I can understand.
Yeah, and I'm the adrenaline and probably water. I need to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Let's sip now.
Okay, so
Man.
number two, what is the wildest or most unexpected thing you ever had to source or move?
Hand sanitizer.
Okay.
Tons of it.
Tons of hand.
I mean, I'll just say probably RFID labels. Probably not wild or anything, but yeah, RFID labels.
Very much unexpected, though. Okay, Gabrielle.
Trucks. I've had to purchase trucks and private fleets and things, so that's probably, it's not wild, but
Unexpected though, like that's different. Like who buys trucks in bulk, right? You just, you talk about that as a normal person. And one last thing, if your supply chain job had a theme song, what would it be?
oh,
Oh, no.
My theme song, man. First thing I think of is the Rick Ross, man. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
That's a good one.
It's a hustle every day.
I can't match that. That's a good one.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I mean, hey, another one I think of, Lil Baby is All In. Like just like how Gabby was talking about, like you have to go to decision no matter if you agree with it or not. And might sometimes have to be all in with it. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, Jonathan, you on that question. I hear you.
Not the song.
Okay. All right. And my last question for everybody, and this is the most important of all, because this is what the students care about. This is what they want to know. Are there jobs when they graduate? Will there be positions for them?
Yes. And I'll jump for it because I know everyone sees the news about the layoffs at Amazon. As we continue to just keep pushing with AI, there are going to be some sectors we cut back on. But I know right now in my particular field, we can't hire enough, right? So I know you see the news, but those are specific roles. Anything that's supply chain related, I've never seen massive cuts from supply chain. If anything, it's hard for us to keep or continue to get talent to go into supply chain. So we are definitely hiring.
Very encouraging.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing for International Paper. We recently had the announcements. We've had a significant amount of layoffs, and we have a portion of our business that's being carved off, our pulp business. I would say for entry level, same thing as Levon. I don't want to speak too strongly, but I don't believe that individuals coming out of college are going to struggle finding an entry level job in supply chain. I do think you want to be intentional and strategic about your career pathing once you get into that organization. At all the factors that we've talked about, AI, the data visualization tools that are being incorporated, the boomer workforce, aging out and pensions going away and things like that. I think you want to be wise about what areas you move into and where you see career growth and where you see career potential in certain areas. I think once you get into a company, you'll be able to tell, what are the roles. I don't want to call them out, but you'll be able to tell what are the roles that probably don't have the longest runway, the most, that will be the most sustainable. But I think if corporate America is what you're looking for a career path, then be intentional about driving towards those directions that, give you that sustaining presence. And, or determine whether if corporate America is a period of time that leverages something else. I think that's wise as well. I'm sure you guys talk about it in STS, the multiple income streams and, keeping a line of sight on what outside of corporate America or what skills you can use in supply chain management to create your own supply chain management space. I think all of those things, are wise. So if you want long term in corporate America, make sure you're clear about what that path looks like. Or if you want to use what you learn for a period of time to seed something else, I think that's also wise as well.
Yep, and then supply chain. So the thing I know at IP was this way, and I know Savano's the same as well. You don't actually have to be a supply chain major to enter in supply chain as well. We take business majors, so finance, marketing, supply chain, international studies. If it's within business, we'll actually take people into supply chain. I think it would behoove you though, if you are still in college, just take one supply chain course at least. So, just familiarize yourself. I think it'll help you one on your resume, but also just coming into corporate America. And then, yeah, as far as jobs, yeah, I mean, we have them as well as Savamo within supply chain, especially entry level. We've been doing interviews all year, although we have been impacted in the last couple of years with layoffs as well. But I would say within it, we've been telling you all that the supply chain is flexible, is always changing. There are always new roles created in supply chain, always. Actually, two of the roles that I've actually held were new positions that were created just to fit the need that we had at the time. And I know that we've continuously done that over the past few years as well. So sometimes they create roles just based on the need. And if you're somebody that's flexible, adaptable, can work with different people, has various skill sets, you might be one of the people that could, land one of those roles and be able to bounce around as well.
Sounds like a promising market. And thank y'all so much for your insight and your wisdom and your experience. I had a good time and I hope y'all did. And the students at STS will definitely love to take this in, and I cannot wait to share them with you. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's been Jonathan Moffitt, Gabrielle Mitchell-Smith, and Lavon Valentine. Thank y'all so much for joining us, and we'll be logging out. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
1 second, actually. We have someone that raised their hand. I'm so sorry, y'all. This is like a very last minute thing. Caleb, do you have something? 1 second.
Hello?
Hi, Caleb.
Hey. Yeah, so hello, my name is Caleb Suing. So I do have a question. So you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a interdisciplinary studies major. Basically it's like a double major, but my school, like Lamono and college, doesn't offer that. But my concentrations are in business, like specifically supply chain management and religion. Um, and I also like to do Spanish too, but you can only do like two, like concentration. So what my question was, it's like, what are like companies that are kind of looking for like that mix of blend with, supply chain management with kind of a religious major at the same time with, wanting maybe like a bilingual person. And you also want to work my way up. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to be in international operations. That's what I want to do, but I also want to work my way up to a COO, Chief Operations Officer. So that are looking for those qualities, or yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Caleb, I'll just throw out, my thoughts initially first. I would actually recommend that, maybe you don't necessarily look at your major or look for a company that's all inclusive of the different facets of your major. I think you can break it up and you can say, hey, the business portion or the business side of my major, let me look for opportunities that my skill sets work within this corporation. And then if you have a religious component to your major, maybe you're looking at different universities that faith-based universities that where you can maybe teach or come into some of those spaces. So I wouldn't necessarily look at it as like a role that encompasses all the different pieces of my major. I would more so kind of break it up and let those pieces kind of drive different opportunities.
Okay.
Also, man, we will be sharing Caleb, we will be sharing an email of resources that were mentioned during this call. Speakers, would you all mind if we shared y'all's LinkedIn as well, if Caleb and others reach out?
Yep, go ahead for sure. Send me a DM. I will definitely respond.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for your question, Caleb. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a good day.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, thank you, bye.